This is a story about divisions and dividing lines, and it begins with this: a slim pathway of cobbles along the streets of Berlin, because where now there are stones, there used to be a wall. Building work on the Berlin Wall began suddenly in 1961, a barrier to divide a city, a nation, and even a continent. Millions of people found themselves trapped in a new, repressive country. Peter Bieber was 16 when the wall went up.
And when I see the wall, I think how crazy it was to do that, only that the people can't leave the land.
He escaped in 1970, but then returned across the wall to help 11 other people get to the west. On his final rescue mission, Peter was caught by the East German secret police and sent to prison for 5 grueling years.
I was 27 years, and I think in this moment here, I don't know what happened. What will they do with me?
Eventually, the West German government bought his freedom. Peter returned across the wall and waited for the day when it would fall.
In 1989, they opened the wall. Yeah. What was that night like?
For me, the 9th November is a high day in my life.
The best day of your life?
Yes, best day of my life.
The campaign to bring down the Berlin Wall had run for decades.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
But in 1989, after months of rumours, East Germany simply dropped all border restrictions. Anke Domscheit-Berg was a textile student growing up in East Germany. When she heard the border to the west had been opened, she rushed to be there to see what life was like on the other side.
And lots of hands pulled us up, and so we managed to get on top of it, and everybody was also holding everybody else, so nobody was falling down. It was deep. And there, on top of this wall, it was then that I felt for the first time as actually true. We the people, we won. And nobody will ever fight us back again. We have won forever, so to say.
Now, 3 decades later, she's an MP, worried that reunification still hasn't fulfilled its own heady expectations.
I would definitely say the reunification has not happened 100%. And it's very easy to see it if you just measure any statistics. If you color it by numbers, you see where the border was, you still see it. You look for unemployment rates, you see the wall. You look for income, you look for wealth, you see the wall.
So is she right? Are East and West still framed by a wall that has long since fallen? And what would that mean for Europe's biggest, richest country?
30 years after it was breached, this wall still has extraordinary symbolic power as a sign of how politics can divide the world. But it didn't just split Berlin in two. This wall also separated East and West Germany, and that profound scar still hasn't really healed.
The division is most obvious when you head east. So we're travelling to a town that is still struggling with the question of identity, Cottbus. You can see the heritage of East Germany, and here reunification brought pain as well as joy. 1.5 million East Germans working in state-run companies lost their jobs. Millions more fled. Karola opened her shop just a month before the wall came down. She's seen how Cottbus has changed.
Some people were definitely hit hard, and people who were unemployed then are receiving lower pensions now. And I think these people feel bad. I think politicians could have solved this problem better. Many economic sectors in Cottbus collapsed after the fall of the wall, and because of this, many young people leave after school.
Disaffection is rife, Only 38% of people in the East think German reunification has been a success. But now voters here are moving away from traditional parties, and instead a growing number are backing a relatively new party called AfD. AfD supporters say it voices the concerns of normal voters. Its critics say it's extremist and racist. And what's really notable is that AfD is much more popular in East Germany than in the West. And now the AfD has added a new message, a defence of East Germany's forgotten voters.
East Germans are more critical per se. They are more critical because we once saw a state's collapse, and so we say, wait, we better pay attention before we realise that the country is going down the drain again.
It is this rhetoric, this idea of people being cheated of chances, that is pulling voters towards the party. Discontent rather suits the AfD.
Right-wing populist people very often try to victimize themselves. As a democratic society, we need to talk about unjust situations, yes. That is not justifying right-wing actions and racist attitudes.
So what does this mean for the whole country? Christian Hirte is the German government's commissioner for the eastern states. I asked him if he saw AfD's success as a danger signal.
Yes, it's a kind of warning. You have probably in the East more people who are against like our immigration politics, about our climate politics, and the people don't want changes. They want to stay like it is, and it is more a stronger signal and warning in the East than in the West. But you have the same situations not only in Germany, also in the West. You have it everywhere in the world.
Germany is led by a chancellor who grew up in East Germany. The government knows it's got a problem. The question is whether the division is so entrenched that it may be impossible to properly unify East and West.
The people in West Germany, they don't understand that there is no longer a West German standard the East German need to fulfill, but we need to talk about a new cultural, political point of view of our country.
Peter Bieber now teaches young people about the wall and its place in the nation's history. He wants people to know the reality of East Germany, to resist any misplaced nostalgia.
Yes, that's a big danger. Yeah, and in East Germany, many people living, they said, "Oi, in the GGR, the life was good," and I say, no, that's not right.
Fundamentally, this wall is really just concrete and reinforced steel, but its symbolic power is mighty. And as for its impact on Germany's life and politics, well, that is profound.
It is 3 decades since this wall fell amid scenes of euphoria. But maybe it's been replaced by something else, by an invisible wall running the length of Germany. And that may prove even harder to demolish.